Welcome to the latest episode of the Gull Mouth Action podcast, where we take a look at all the latest goings on at Brighton, Hove Albion and Crawley Town. I'm Matt Polt, and this week I'm joined by Brighton writer Sam Morton, as well as Crawley Town expert Mark Dunford. The Seagulls exited the FA Cup on Saturday evening after a 3-0 defeat at Liverpool in the fourth round. There was also Merseyside misery last weekend for Crawley, who were beaten 2-0 at Tranmere before then picking up a point at MK Dons in midweek. This week, we'll pick over the bones of Albion's FA Cup exit, look back at the Reds' respective trips to Tranmere and Milton Keynes, and preview Brighton and Crawley's upcoming league fixtures. You can read all the stories we are talking about with videos and pictures online at sussexworld.co.uk/sport. Mo Salah scored and provided an assist as Liverpool brushed aside Brighton at Anfield to reach the FA Cup fifth round. The hosts took a first half lead through Curtis Jones before Salah set up Dominic Szoboszlai after the break. 10 minutes later, Salah was brought down in the box and the Egypt winger blasted his penalty past Jason Steele to put the tie to bed. Albion threatened in phases, but paid the price for not taking their chances. Have now won only 2 of their past 15 games. Another disappointing match for the Seagulls, Sam. A very long way to go to be disappointed as well. Sum that performance up for us, please.
Yeah, incredibly frustrating for Brighton. Obviously, went into the game probably not expecting to win. I think obviously just on form and the fact that Anfield's a really tough place to go, and they obviously did a great job to go to Old Trafford in the previous round and knock out Manchester United. And it did feel incredibly unlucky to get Anfield. Liverpool were at Anfield in the following round. And with the form that they went into the game with, it all kind of spelt disaster. And to be honest, they did play quite well for a lot of the match. They had decent possession, 53% of the ball, 18 shots, but just weren't clinical enough on the day. They lacked the cutting edge when it really mattered. And as I say, they created moments, particularly in transition. But the finishing let them down, and they were punished ruthlessly by a clinical Liverpool side, really, that obviously managed to score 3 goals, and the quality really kind of shone through. I think, it really just showed the gap in quality between the individual players, I think, and obviously it's all about confidence and things like that as well. And quite clearly, Brighton are completely devoid of confidence at the moment, and as a result, decision making in key moments is a bit hesitant. Small areas are proving even more costly. Defensively, they had a few lapses of concentration, and just really frustrating one for Brighton, who I say were in the game. They had opportunities to get back into it, particularly at 1-0. I think they had a chance to equalise, and then it can become a quite different game, which we're going to get onto as well. So frustrating all round for Brighton. Obviously, their league form really poor at the moment, and they don't have the FA Cup to fall back on either at the moment. So all focus now on the Premier League and ensuring they're not pulled into a bit of a relegation fight, which seems crazy to be saying, but it's not out of the question when you look at the table.
No, not at all. I know this is quite an obvious thing to say, but had the Seagulls taken their chances and equalised shortly after Jones opened scoring, this game could have had a different look. But as you said, Sam, Liverpool were clinical while Brighton weren't. And you've kind of already touched upon this, but considering Albion's recent form, which isn't great, is it just a terminal lack of confidence which is holding them back at the moment, or is there more to it?
Yeah, it certainly looks that way. No goals scored in February yet, which, as Ian Hart pointed out in his column, could make goal of the month a bit awkward if they don't start getting fined in the back of the net. And it's becoming increasingly clear they fail to properly replace João Pedro. They obviously have a brilliant striker in Danny Welbeck, but he's in his twilight years and he's unable to play every game for obvious reasons. And he's of late not started many games at all. And then you obviously have the teenage prodigy in Kostoulas, settling into the new league and a new country, and it's not fair to kind of rely on him for regular goals and pull you out of a tough situation. But obviously the Stefano Tsitsipas injury didn't help, but they're lacking big time in that area of the pitch, to be honest, and that needs to be addressed. They need to get someone in that can score regular goals, and obviously when you've got wingers and attacking players around them that have got plenty of individual talent. You think of the likes of Karim Matoma, Jorginho, Jan Minter, who have all fallen below expectations this season, as Darren's mentioned in previous podcasts. They just haven't got the numbers in goals and assists that would be expected of them. And it's difficult to pinpoint an exact reason for that. But at the moment, they're just simply not playing with confidence. They're not playing with kind of just the natural ability that they have. And I think there's a lot of overthinking things and things just aren't coming off. And when a team dominates spells like they did against Liverpool with 18 shots and 53% possession, and still walks away empty-handed, it suggests it's not a tactical thing. It seems like it's a psychological problem. It seems like, because I think, if they're still creating chances and playing in a good way against Liverpool, that there's obviously positives there. But they need to start putting these chances away sooner rather than later. And it could have been a different game, as you say, if they got the equaliser. And Anfield could have got a bit nervy, and they'd have had to reset themselves, and there could have been a chance there for Brighton to nick it in a similar way they did in previous seasons. Obviously, Matoma scoring an incredible winner in a previous FA Cup game against Liverpool, but that does seem like a long time ago now, and you never really felt like that moment was going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned the front line there, Sam, and I believe Harry Howe also started, and he's about 12, isn't he? He's a very young lad. But do you think that, obviously it shows that Herzl has got faith in Howe and Kostulas, but is it also a little bit unfair to be chucking them in the must-win game at Anfield, where, as you said, that their season kind of lived or died by that result now, isn't it?
Yeah, and it was kind of epitomised by that against Crystal Palace as well.
Yes.
Like throwing in Harry Howe in that game was a head scratcher, I think, for a lot of us seeing the team sheet. I think Brighton team sheets are rarely what you expect, but that really was a surprise, and it didn't go well on the day. And there's no discredit to Harry Howe himself, young lad coming into the Premier League for the first time, and it's really tough game to be in, really, kind of the atmosphere and the hostility and everything like that, and obviously with the team devoid of confidence and not able to really impose themselves on the game, he didn't really have any room to work with, really, and then that just continued against Liverpool. But they did obviously have more of the ball, but it's a massive ask at Anfield to try and come up with that moment of magic. You need someone with experience, I think, in times like this when they're really struggling and backs against the wall kind of stuff, and it didn't pay off. It was definitely a gamble by Herzl, and you can look at it the other way and say it's good he's given opportunities, and he's trying different things, but I think it points to a lack of proper quality in those areas at the moment, because if they're relying on a young lad that isn't tested yet, it's a bit of a kind of bad indictment on the more experienced players that aren't cutting it at the moment. And if Herzl thinks they're not going to be the right man for the job, and then he's relying on an 18-year-old, then I think that doesn't bode well, and it suggests that Herzl isn't happy with what he's getting from his players at the moment.
Yeah, well, speaking of Herzl, writing for BBC Sport this week, ex-Scotland and Chelsea winger Pat Nevin claimed Herzl was the likely candidate for the next Premier League manager to be sacked. But former Brighton striker Warren Aspinall insisted that attitude problems were more to blame for the Seagulls' current form than Herzl. After the Liverpool result, Sam, where do you stand on Herzl? Will Albion stick with him, or is his job hanging by a thread? And what do you make of Aspinall's claims that Albion's players have any kind of attitude problem? You've watched a lot of Albion this season. Any truth to that, or a bit of an unfair claim?
Yeah, I'll start with that. It seems a bit harder to substantiate, really. I think when teams lose repeatedly, attitude is often the first accusation. But nothing in Brighton's recent displays kind of suggests they're down tools. I think we've seen it at clubs like Man United, for example, where quite clearly the players have down tools. You can see the quality they have, and quite more often than not, you can kind of see when they're not buying into the manager's ideas. I haven't seen that at Brighton. They're creating chances, they're pressing. Particularly at Anfield. I mean, I can't say that against Crystal Palace. That was a bad one, especially when they went a goal down, and you feel that the team really didn't show any kind of sign of coming back into it, which was really poor. I wouldn't necessarily say they're down tools. They, as we mentioned before, just look really kind of short of ideas and confidence, and that in itself could look to the manager. The manager isn't inspiring confidence in his team, but he's obviously a young man with modern tactical ideas, which has paid off on a number of occasions, and he's had some big wins in the Brighton job. And as we know, football changes really quickly, and if you have a run of games like they're on, it's no real surprise that you're going to be having questions against him. And you can see on social media there's a lot of fans that think his time is up at this point. And, I mean, given the club's recent history, backing managers like Graham Potter and Roberto De Zerbi through transitional spells, it would probably be a bit out of character for Brighton to panic after a rough run. But right now, it feels possible. It feels possible that they could just look at this run of results and think they're just not getting the best out of the players, and they could look at the talent in the squad and in certain areas and think they should be getting a bit more out of these players. I think I've mentioned before, I think the club also needs to go out and improve, particularly in the attacking area. And I know there's problems at the fullback kind of positions as well, kind of providing depth there. So yeah, it's an issue. It's an issue at the moment, and I think seeing the way they're playing and not scoring goals is going to be really frustrating. But yeah, I haven't seen any visible signs of players downing tools. I've not seen players not tracking back or any public disagreements or lack of intensity, anything like that. So it does seem more of a psychological issue, really. But Hertzler needs to start getting the best out of his players, and if he can't do that, then Brighton could pull the trigger and say, look, they need to bring someone else in. Obviously, Roberto De Serbi is now out of a job, so they might be looking to bring him back. You never know. I think I've listened to a podcast of Man United this week, and apparently it was thought that Man United could be in for Roberto De Serbi as a possible full-time manager if Michael Carrick doesn't get the job on a permanent basis. So it'd be interesting where he ends up, but I wouldn't be surprised if Brighton look at this run of form and say enough is enough. But as we know, they don't panic, they don't jump into things. So time will tell.
I know that Hertzler has got a lot of stick on social media, but I've seen some claim that the recruitment hasn't been good enough. I must admit, Sam, I don't watch Albion anywhere as much as you do. But could there be a case that the recruitment hasn't been good enough? Because you look at the players they brought in. Can you say any of them in the past 2 transfer windows have been hits? 2-3 transfer windows?
No, it's very true. I think actually, you look at Brighton, and they've always been a club that have looked at as having a really good recruitment system. It's been one of their major selling points. And you look at players that are coming through other countries, and young players that look at Brighton as being the perfect way of getting into the Premier League and making a name for themselves. And it starts to be petering out a little bit. I think that things just aren't panning out as successfully as they were before. We're not seeing it on a regular basis. Obviously, we'd hope that Kosciuszko would be an instant hit, but it's not really fair to say that when he's an 18-year-old lad. And obviously, we saw really good early signs from Jan Kugelminter when he came in from Newcastle, and I still think he's got potential to be a really quality player. But it's a difficult one. I think you're seeing a lot of kind of underperforming players throughout the pitch, really, and players picked up injuries. And Kadioglu has been like a new signing this season, and on the whole, he's been really impressive. Actually, I think he's had a couple of difficult games lately, but on the whole, Kadioglu has been really great this season. Obviously, we've seen Yasin Iyari really make a name for himself under Fabian Hertzler and impressed there. But big issues obviously been Carlos Baleba and his kind of regression in midfield, and that's obviously not helped, as we've touched upon on a number of occasions. So it's a difficult one. I think the next couple of transfer windows, especially in summer, will be massive. As I say, they need to get a striker in, someone between the ages of 18 and 35, because it's quite one extreme to the other in that sense. And yeah, obviously defensive situation as well. Obviously, you've got Van Heck that is untouchable, and it's important that you try and keep him in the team and kind of build that defence around him. Because Lewis Dunk, so there are rumours that the club were even happy to sanction a deal for him to go to Nottingham Forest, and he wasn't happy with that. He was happy to stay. So it'll be interesting what Brighton decide to do there, if they're looking to kind of ease him out of the team and get kind of a younger player in to slot alongside Van Heck. I mean, we've seen glimpses of Biscali, and Coppola's gone out on loan, but there hasn't really been solid recruitment in the last year or so where you've got players have come in and made an immediate impact, like we've become so accustomed to and expect with Brighton. So there has been a bit of a drop off in that sense. I think we saw it quite a few years ago with Southampton, where they kind of were a real quality selling club, I guess, obviously bringing in real quality talent and then sending them on for big fees, and they go on to do well elsewhere. And we've seen that with Brighton on so many occasions, and it's just starting to peter out a little bit. But I still back Tony Bloom and his team to be able to find that kind of talent again and be able to keep doing what they're good at doing and what they prove to be good at doing. So it'll be interesting in the next couple of transfer windows what they look to improve on.
Yeah, absolutely. Fingers crossed they don't go down the same path as Southampton, because it's not a path you want to follow. The defeat to Liverpool ends Albion's chances of silverware this season. As we mentioned, Brighton, who sit 7 points above the Premier League relegation zone, visit Brentford in the league this weekend. We'll preview Albion's trip to West London in a bit, Sam. But where does Brighton's season go from here? No trophies to contend for anymore. Desperately trying to keep their top flight status. As you've said, it's not the campaign many Seagulls supporters expected. Will this season ultimately be remembered as one of pure disappointment?
I think so. It's been a season that's drifted well below expectations, and I've seen certain fans be accused of entitlement when they've suggested that they were promised a lot more, which I think Brighton fans were promised a lot more with kind of the progression that they've made in recent years, building a reputation as one of the league's smartest and most progressive clubs, pushing for Europe, playing bold football, and kind of upsetting the established order of the Premier League, and they've really made a name of themselves for doing that. And you can argue there's still been glimpses of that. They've had some big results this year, beating Man City, lots of Man United out in the FA Cup, and they've had some big results and performances, but just on a consistent basis, especially, as we mentioned, 2 wins in the last 15 in all competitions and 1 in the last 13 Premier League games. It's relegation form. I think it's the worst run of results that any club's had in the Premier League, and the supporters who've grown used to an upward curve. But this is not what they bought into, and not what that's not part of the agreement of being a Brighton fan. But yeah, you've got to look at the bigger picture, and if Albion do stabilise and pull clear, you could maybe see this as a kind of a reset period and a kind of a necessary transitional year, maybe. And you can see, as I say, a reset rather than a failure. But if they limp over the line or get dragged into a relegation battle, then it will feel like a season where momentum is completely stalled and progress that they made has gone backwards a little bit. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see, as I say, where it goes from here. But supporters are getting a bit fed up. You can just look on social media and just see. I think there's a huge kind of part of the fan base that thinks changes is needed, and you heard that at the Amex against Crystal Palace, and it was certainly an atmosphere that I've not experienced before in that sense. So time will tell, as I say, but I think that improvements need to be seen on the pitch sooner rather than later, starting with Brentford, which obviously we're going to discuss next.
We are indeed. And as we mentioned, this Saturday sees Brighton travel to Brentford. The Bees are buzzing under manager Keith Andrews. The West London outfit are 7th in the Premier League, just 4 points off the European places, and are through to the 5th round of the FA Cup after avoiding a cup set at Macclesfield. It's another tough game for the Seagulls. Sam, how do you see this one going? And what's the latest injury news from the Albion camp?
Yeah, so Brentford have built up a bit of momentum. I think we all looked at the start of the season as them as being a team that might struggle. Thomas Frank leaving, Brian Bumo leaving, Wissa moving on as well to Newcastle, and we felt that Brentford might struggle, but they've been really impressive, to be honest, and kind of surprised me just with how quality they've been, and sitting 7th in the league at the moment, and only 2 defeats in 2026. Unbeaten in the last 3 with a win at Newcastle and a home draw against Arsenal. So yeah, really tough one for Brighton. And obviously they had a really rough defeat at Brentford's place last season, as well as 4-2 in April 2025. So that was a rough one, but they bounced back and got a win against them in the most recent meeting in November. It was a 2-1 win for Brighton at the Amex. And historically, it's been quite close as well. I think they played 36, with Brighton winning 14 and Brentford winning 12, with 10 draws in there. So it'll be a tough one. But as I say, Keith Andrews has done a great job with Brentford, and he's really kind of got Brentford playing some really, really quality football. And it underlines just how stiff a test this will be for Brighton. And if you look at the current trajectory of both teams, but you could say Brentford are favourites going into this game. Obviously, they're organised, aggressive without the ball, and being within touch and distance of the European places. We'll be looking at this game against Brighton as being a really big opportunity for them to get another 3 points on the board. But Brighton have to see it as a game where they need to go and put in a good performance and get a vital win, really, and start putting any uneasy fears of being pulled into that scrap for the relegation places. I can't see that happening, but obviously just the more this goes on and the more they can't get any goals and can't get any wins, then obviously that's when it becomes a worry. So they need to get a win here if possible.
Yes, fingers crossed. Best of luck to Brighton on the weekend. Now we'll cast our eye on Crawley Town, who had an up and down week in League Two. Saturday saw the Reds lose 3-0 at Tranmere. The damage was done before the break thanks to Zach Obiero's strike and a Joe Ironside penalty as the Reds slipped to a third consecutive defeat. It sounded like a difficult day in Merseyside, to say the least, for Crawley. Mark. Some of that Reds display up for us, please. I've seen a bit online and yes, not the greatest performance, I think it's safe to say.
No, and it was sort of continuation of the performances against Crewe and Cambridge.
Yes.
The two games before, it looked very, very poor. I didn't actually watch the game. We had Ron Alderman watching. But, by all accounts, it was pretty dreadful. But, I mean, it's just another game. But in the first half of the season, how many times did I read out statistics where if you just looked on paper, Crawley should have absolutely battered them. But if you look at it, Crawley had... What was it? It was they had 65% possession, 17 total shots against Tranmere's 8, 4 shots on target against Tranmere's 3. They had 15 corners to Tranmere's 5. They had 73% pass completion rate. So, but if you looked at that and you hadn't watched the game, you'd think, oh, Crawley did really well. Just unlucky they didn't win. But yeah, second half was much better by all accounts, but the first half was awful. The goals weren't very good. I think it was Ronan Darcy who a mislaid pass set up for the first goal and then just a clumsy challenge for the penalty. And then, I think Tranmere obviously happy, just done the job first half and just sort of sat back and let Crawley play, knowing that Crawley are struggling to score goals at the moment. So, really, really disappointing. It's a ground that Crawley have done well in the past, but it's just, just the end of a 3 really poor performances, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Tuesday evening saw Crawley share the points with promotion chasing MK Dons after a goalless draw at Stadium MK. Both sides passed up on opportunities in a scrappy game, ending with a result that did little to aid the Dons' automatic promotion bid or Crawley's survival aspirations. What did you make of the Reds' performance, Mark? On paper, it sounds quite good, moving up a spot on the table, but the gap between them and relegation has narrowed, hasn't it, after wins for the bottom two?
Yeah, they didn't need that. A lot of the results recently, the teams below them have lost or teams around them have lost or drawn, so it's been quite good. But this all went against them a little bit on Tuesday night, but it was, a really good battling performance. MK Dons obviously really, really good side. Good players like Alex Gilby, who was really good. Crowley, is it Crowley? One of the midfielders, he looked exceptional. They've got Hepburn Murphy, who they know about. Liam Kelly was great for them. Really good side, MK Dons. Obviously spent a lot of money, huge budget compared to Crawley, but Crawley battled really well, and that's what they've been missing the last 3 games before that. Just a really good battling performance. Whether they look like scoring, they had a couple of chances. Ronan Darcy had one at the end, which sort of came off him. It would have been a great smash and grab if they got that, but they just defended really well. And I know we're going to come on to Jacob Chapman, but he was absolutely exceptional. But Gerardo Badrami, Charlie Barker, Josh Flint, again, all really good in defence. Jay Williams was exceptional, and another player we're going to get onto, Justin Ferazai, really good. So, really good, promising signs. It's just at that top end of the pitch. Orsi, he works so hard, but the chances aren't just falling for him, or he's not getting quite the service he needs. He had one moment where Kellen Gordon whipped in a really good cross, and he got a touch on it, but a defender was there and just sort of nullified the effort, kind of thing. So it was easy for the keeper. But that's where they're struggling, and it's a question for Scott Lindsay today when we see him later about, is he thinking of changing that personnel up top just to try and freshen things up, because the chances and they just don't look like scoring at the moment, which is obviously a huge problem when you're at the bottom of the table. Yeah,
absolutely. Fingers crossed that once Orsi gets one, the goals will flow. I think that's what Scott Lindsay wants, isn't it?
I think he is a bit of a. I think Lindsay said the phrase last week, a cluster striker, where he'll go 6 or 7 games without scoring, but then he'll score 9 in 6 games. So fingers crossed that's what happens with him.
Yes, fingers crossed. And as you mentioned, January signing Justin Ferrazai made his Crawley debut off the bench at Tranmere on Saturday. The Republic of Ireland Youth International was then handed his full debut at MK Dons 3 days later. And by all accounts, it sounded like he did really well, Mark. How did you rate his performance at MK Dons in particular? And have the Reds potentially unearthed a bit of a gem?
Yeah, I think they have. I mean, when I got the player ratings through from the Tranmere game from Ron, I think he was the only one that got above 6 out of 10 for his second half performance. So he obviously did enough in that game and has done enough in training to show Scott he's ready. And Scott threw him in against MK Dons, which is not an easy easy team to play against that midfield of, like I say, Gilby, is it Crawley or Crowther? It's terrible that I can't remember. And Liam Kelly. And he was really, really good. He was so assured on the ball and he was always looking to get involved. And he was playing alongside Jay Williams. And I think that helps when you've got that really experienced sort of general next to you. But he was, so composed, efficient with the ball, got stuck in with tackles. And that was not, I was just amazed how didn't seem overawed. And I think they really have. I mean, I was talking to Erdem Konya last week, director of football, after the fans forum, and he was saying when he got the YouTube clips of him, he was just like, "This is some player." And I think they just fell in love with him when he came to the club for the first time as well. So, really, it could be and I can't see how you replace him now. He's sort of, you can obviously if he has a poor performance next game or doesn't do what he needs to do in training. But after that performance, it's got to be hard to get the shirt off him. But you sense there's a bright future for him. Yeah, definitely.
Good on him. Long may it continue. Another who impressed for the Reds in Milton Keynes was Australian goalkeeper Jacob Chapman. The Huddersfield Town loanee was in inspired form at Stadium MK, making a string of superb saves to keep out the promotion chasing Dons. He's been brilliant, isn't he? Since joining in January, isn't he? How important has he been to the Reds in recent weeks? There must surely as well be a clamour to keep him on a permanent deal after some of the performance he's put in. He's been really top drawer, isn't he?
Oh, he's been their best player pretty much, arguably against Theo for Sale since the January transfer window. Those two have been really, really good signings. A shame, obviously, Theo for Sale's out now for a while. But, he kept 3 clean sheets when he came in, and he was a big part of those clean sheets as well, made some top saves. Arguably, none of the goals in those 3 defeats were his fault, I would say. More defensive errors and areas in other parts of the field that led to those goals. But on Tuesday night, he was. It's the closest I've come to giving a 10 out of 10 in player ratings this season so far. I didn't quite give him that, but he got a 9 out of 10. There was a save from Alex Gilby in the first half, which was he had a completely free header, and he probably didn't get the best connection, but Chapman had to be there and put off a really good save. Hepburn Murphy had a chance, which he saved with his feet. And then probably the best of the bunch was Scott Hogan, substitute, came on from the point blank range and just pulled a save out of nowhere, which would have been an absolute killer if that had gone in, because I think it was in added time maybe. So he was just exceptional. But at the fans forum last week, there was a question asked to Erdem Konya about him, and the fan who asked the question said, "I would sell my liver now if it helps you get him on a permanent deal." So I think it's difficult, isn't it? Because he's obviously from Huddersfield Town. If people see the kind of performances he's putting in, good keepers are like gold dust, aren't they? So if people see him performing like that, it's going to be hard for Crawley to compete with certainly budget-wise, with offers they can make to players on loan. And the same with Darcy and Lolos, etc. When it comes to trying to get them on permanent deals, it's going to be difficult to compete with other clubs who, if they manage to stay up, Darcy and Lolos start really performing, other clubs are going to start taking notice, so it's going to be difficult. But if I was Erdem Konya, I'd be trying to get that deal sorted now, and I'm sure Scott Lindsay would love to have him there.
Yeah, absolutely. I know this is probably a bit of an unfair question, and bearing in mind we're only midway through February, I'd be interested to know who you would be winning the Crawley Observer Player of the Year so far. Who are the front runners?
Well, we do it based on... You are putting me on the spot, and I'm going to have to open a spreadsheet because we do it based on the player ratings, and you have to qualify by obviously playing a certain amount of games, at least half the games. We do it in all competitions, and we do player ratings for every single game, and simply based on the average. So, I mean, it's going to be a bit difficult this year because obviously some of the players won't be able to play half the games.
Yes.
But I think we might make exceptions for the 13 that come in if they play every game since they come in. So Jacob Chapman would be up there so far. I think he has probably got the best average. Let me go and have a look. He has got an average of 7.57 out of 10 so far. Oh, who's 7.6? Oh, weirdly, no, I'm not even going to mention that because it's ridiculous because he can't win it because he's left the club now. But he only played a couple of games, but he's got quite a high average. Joy Mukaina, that is, weirdly.
Oh, right.
And who's... Well, and there's another player that's got an average of over 8 who only played about 3 or 4 games. So we won't mention him. Ben Radcliffe, that was.
Right.
So looking at it, this is live. This is exciting, isn't it?
It is. We're on the edge of our seats.
You're on the edge of your seats. I think Josh Flint so far.
Yes.
Josh Flint and Jay Williams are the two who are probably likely to be competing for it. I mean, Josh Flint, he got substituted the other day, which was really annoying because I was about writing my player ratings and he said he continued his run of playing every minute of every game this year and he got substituted with like 5 minutes to go, which was really annoying. But he's been so good. And again, he's another one. I think he's out of contract in the summer. It's going to be hard to keep him because he's been so good. He's arguably been Crawley's best player for the last 2 seasons. But yeah, he was the best player before he got injured in League One. So yeah, it'd probably be between if Chapman carries on as he is, it's hard to argue. And if he keeps a few more clean sheets, saves points for Crawley Town and keeps them up, you have to look at him for arguably player of the season. But yeah, Williams and Flint probably between.
I was going to say he's been great, isn't he, Josh Flint? But arguably incredibly underrated still. He's an odd player, isn't he, Josh Flint? Great, but I don't think he gets the recognition he deserves. Well, until this.
He probably doesn't, yeah, because the thing is probably because the position he plays in, he's playing the left of a back three. He has some. Anyone who watches him every week will just think, bloody hell, how's this player playing in this division sort of thing? Because his runs forward, he's very much a Van der Ven kind of surge forward. He's quick, he's powerful, he's great in the air, he's got a great strike on him. He's only scored the 1 goal with a header this year. But he's hit the post a couple of times. He's had a couple of really good forced good saves from keepers. Yeah, so good. I saw someone in one of the forums the other day say, why aren't we playing him further up the field? Why can't he be like a Declan Rice in midfield that surges forward? And yeah, it's hard to argue against that with the way he plays. He's so good. But what would you lose in the defensive department from that as well? Because he's great in that part as well. So, but yeah, really good player. But like you say, yeah, a little bit underrated. But he's played in the Eredivisie. He was on Portsmouth's books. So I think there'll be clubs coming in for him, and it's going to be quite hard to tie him down. Whether Scott Lindsay can use his charms to try and keep him. But yeah, no, really, really, really good player.
Yeah, absolutely. Fingers crossed he sticks around. Well, this Saturday sees Crawley welcome playoff chasing Chesterfield to the Broadfield Stadium. The 6th place Spireites are unbeaten in 5 in League Two, but they were held to a 1-1 draw at home to second from bottom Harrogate last weekend. How do you see this one going, Mark? Does that Harrogate result give Crawley a bit of hope? And how they stacked in terms of injuries?
The Harrogate result, Harrogate beat Cambridge before Crawley played them, and Crawley got battered by Cambridge. So you could look at it like that. But yeah, Crawley did really well at their place. They went 2-0 up. Then Chesterfield got it back to 2-2. And then Kaheen Dixon, I think Lindsay still rused this chance. Kaheen Dixon tried to take the ball around the keeper about 5 times and on a 1-on-1 and just didn't come off, and they should have won it. I think that's a really frustrating result for Lindsay and the whole scheme of things. But yeah, it's going to be a tough trip. And injury-wise, yeah, Louis Copley, he didn't feature. He played against Tranmere, but didn't feature again. Came off half-time, didn't feature against MK Dons, so he's a big miss. But Ferrazai's come in and replaced him, so hopefully he can continue his good form. Theo Fasal is obviously still out. It didn't look like they picked up any injuries the other night, so hopefully they will have a similar team, similar battling performance, and just start finding the net, because that's what they need to do. But I was really impressed with Kellen Gordon the other night. I think that was his best game since returning, and also Clyde Lolos as well. was more involved than he has been in the previous games. So hopefully there are signs that the team is really starting to click now, boosted by a clean sheet and a good point out of promotion chasing MK Dons. And hopefully they can do similar and go on a bit more on the attack and, catch Chesterfield off guard. And, they need to start getting that gap wider, because they got that gap to 6 points at one point, didn't they, after that little mini run. And then now it's with Harrogate and Newport starting to get some results, they've got to start getting, certainly the home games, they've got to start picking up big points.
Yeah, absolutely. Fingers crossed for Crawley this weekend. And as ever, we will finish with score predictions. I'm going to caveat this already by saying I don't think either Brighton or Crawley are going to win this weekend. But we'll start with Brighton's trip to Brentford. Sam Morton, how do you see that one going? Oh, you're on mute.
Sorry, chaps. No, I'm not confident at all. I'm going to go with the draw this one. I think it's going to be a bit nervy. I'll say 1-1. But it'll be interesting with what team Brighton line up with, because I completely neglected the team news element to it, and we're still waiting for Fabian Herzog to confirm. But quite often we don't find out till the day if there's been a bit of mystery injury. We know Yasin Yari is potentially going to be missing. He might not be back in time, so that'd be an interesting one, because he's important to the team. And I think Matt Weaver did return for the Liverpool game, and that saw Matt O'Reilly pushed out of the squad entirely, which continues the bit of the mystery of why he was brought back and his strange old relationship with Brighton. And it goes a bit of a long way to suggest that recruitment's been an issue as well, because in the previous question, because Matt O'Reilly has been a strange one.
He has indeed. Mark, any confidence for the City? No. Shake of the head already.
No, I think it's going to be a Brentford win. They're like one of the surprise packages this year, like Sam said earlier. Keith Andrews has done a great job, and he did a great job patronising Macclesfield the other day when he went into their changing room. But I'm going to go for a 1-0 Brentford win. Like you say, I think it'll be nervy, but Brentford just seem to be able to pull off results this season. And the way Brighton are playing, I think that's the way it's going to go.
And I would like a quick yes or no answer from you both. Starting with you, Sam. If Brighton were to lose at Brentford, will Fabian Herzog still be in his job?
I think he'll be sacked if they lose.
Ooh.
I think if they were to go there and lose, it does look very precarious.
I agree. Yeah, I think so. I think I can't see how he continues, because there's clearly a problem going on at the moment, isn't there? It seems to be. So the way they're performing. So agree with Sam.
Oh, interesting stuff. Well, fingers crossed for Brighton at the weekend then. And we'll end with Crawley at home to Chesterfield in League Two. Mark, I think the outlook's looking pretty bleak from my point of view for the Reds, but I'm sure you'll be able to spread some optimism and change my mind.
I will. I'm always optimistic with Crawley, not Brighton so much. But I think, I think they'll win this weekend. I think the Tuesday night will give them a real big boost, and Orsie's going to get his first goal, and I think it's going to be a 2-1 victory.
Oh, excellent stuff. Sam Morton, finally. How do you see this one going at the Broadfield Stadium?
I'm going to go with the same result. I'm going to say 1-1. 1-1. But I think Crawley will be in the game, just fall short of a win. But I think a 1-1 point will be very respectable. And
would they be happy with a 1-1 mark at home to Chesterfield?
Scott won't be. But I think it's a good. I think anything other than a defeat is a good result, and they just got to keep picking up points where they can. Yeah. So I think it would be a good result. It wouldn't be a great result.
Yes, and fingers crossed results go their way this week. Well, thank you very much for joining me this week, chaps. Don't forget you can catch up with all the latest sports news covering everything we have talked about today at sussexworld.co.uk/sport. Thank you very much for listening and or watching as ever, and we will see you all next week.